Okay, here are the 7 levels of hurricanes. Level 1, the Sky Blender. A hurricane is basically what happens when the ocean gets too hot and the atmosphere decides to build a rotating boss fight. And the crazy part is, from space, it looks beautiful. That's the scam. A perfect spiral, a calm eye, clouds curling like some divine cinnamon roll. Then you zoom in and remember, oh yeah, this thing is throwing houses into other houses. A strong hurricane isn't just windy. It's a moving engine powered by warm ocean water. The ocean feeds it heat. The air rises. More air rushes in. The whole thing starts spinning because Earth is rotating, because apparently Earth also wanted to be involved in the crime. And if the storm gets organized enough, it becomes a giant heat machine. At Category 5, the winds are at least 157 miles per hour. That's not hold on to your hat. That's your hat has entered international airspace. But the weirdest part is the eye. The center of the storm can be weirdly calm. Blue sky, light winds, almost peaceful. Imagine surviving the first half of a monster storm, stepping outside, seeing sunshine and thinking, oh cool, it's over. Nope. That's the intermission. The stadium is still full. The second half is coming from the opposite direction. The eye is surrounded by the eye wall, where the most violent winds live. So a hurricane is basically a giant spinning blender with a calm little meditation room in the middle. Cute, horrible. Very on brand for Earth. But the wind is not even the most disrespectful part, because level 2 is when the ocean stops being scenery and starts being a weapon. Level 2, the ocean that walks onto land. The scariest part of a hurricane is not always the wind, it's the ocean showing up where the ocean was absolutely not invited. Storm surge is when a hurricane pushes seawater onto land, not a wave, not normal flooding, a wall of ocean. The storm's winds shove water toward the coast, and low pressure helps lift the sea level, then that water piles up and moves inland like the map got hacked. This is why people can see a hurricane coming and still underestimate it, because wind feels obvious. Wind breaks things loudly. Storm surge just arrives like a silent eviction notice from Poseidon. And once it comes in, it doesn't care that roads exist, it doesn't care that buildings exist, it doesn't care that your car is paid off. Water is heavy. Moving water is even worse. A few feet can knock people down, move vehicles, and turn neighborhoods into temporary ocean property. That's why storm surge is one of the deadliest hurricane threats. It's not dramatic in the way movies want. It doesn't need a shark flying through a casino. It's just water going exactly where humans built things and saying, mine now. And this is where hurricanes start feeling less like weather and more like an invasion. The sky attacks you from above, the ocean attacks you from below, rain attacks you sideways, and then the storm does something even more unfair. It changes its own body, because level 3 is when a hurricane literally replaces its eye. Level 3, the storm that grows a new eyeball. Some powerful hurricanes can rebuild themselves mid-battle. That sounds fake. It is not fake. It's called an eyewall replacement cycle, which is an extremely boring name for the hurricane grows a second eyeball and strangles the first one. Here's how cursed this gets. The eyewall is the ring of strongest winds around the eye. But in intense hurricanes, another ring of thunderstorms can form outside the original eyewall. So now the hurricane has two eyewalls, two circles of violence. The outer eyewall tightens, steals energy from the inner eyewall, and eventually replaces it. The original eye basically gets eaten by its own sequel. This can temporarily weaken the storm, which sounds great until you realize the storm often gets larger. The strongest winds may spread out over a bigger area. So instead of one concentrated punch, the hurricane becomes a bigger, messier, wetter nightmare. It's like the storm took a break from destroying things to upgrade its hitbox. In forecasting, this is difficult, because the timing matters. If the eyewall replacement happens before landfall, it might reduce peak winds a little. If it finishes and the storm strengthens again, congratulations. You now have a refreshed hurricane with a brand new face. Imagine watching radar and seeing a giant storm reorganize itself like a villain healing in the final act. Wait, did the hurricane just evolve? Yes, kind of. Nature doesn't call it that because scientists have dignity. But we all know what we saw. And once storms can modify themselves, the next level asks a worse question. What if one hurricane meets another hurricane? Level 4. The storm that dances with another storm. Sometimes two storms get close enough that they start orbiting each other. This is called the Fujiwhara effect. And yes, it looks exactly as ridiculous as it sounds. Two cyclones spinning around a shared center, like the atmosphere accidentally opened a dance floor, except the dance partners are made of rain, wind, flooding, and bad news. If the storms are similar in size, they can rotate around each other. If one is stronger, it can dominate the other. Sometimes they separate. Sometimes one absorbs the other. Sometimes the whole forecast map starts looking like a toddler drew spaghetti with anxiety. This is where hurricanes stop feeling like single disasters and start feeling like weather with multiplayer enabled. One storm is already hard enough to track. Now imagine two of them interacting. The path can shift, the timing can change, the intensity can get weird. The storms can tug on each other like angry dogs on cosmic leashes. And the viewer at home is just staring at the weather app thinking, why is the cone shaped like emotional damage? The Fujiwhara effect matters because hurricanes are not isolated little pinwheels. They live in a messy atmosphere full of currents, pressure systems, and other storms. So when they meet, the outcome can get chaotic fast. It's rare enough to feel special, but real enough to make meteorologists sweat politely. And this is the moment the latter starts leaving normal disaster mode, because if hurricanes can interact and rebuild themselves and push oceans inland, then the next one is the storm that refuses to stay dead. Level 5. The zombie hurricane. Sometimes a storm dies, then comes back. And meteorologists with a straight face have actually used the phrase zombie storm, which is amazing, because weather already had enough problems before it discovered necromancy. A tropical storm or hurricane can weaken, lose its tropical structure, get downgraded, wander around, and then conditions improve, warm water, lower wind shear, moist air. Suddenly, the leftover swirl reorganizes. The storm gets a name again. The monster sits up in the coffin. This is deeply rude because when a storm weakens, people naturally relax. They think the story is ending, but the atmosphere can keep the leftovers spinning. And if the environment becomes favorable again, the storm can regenerate. That means dead in hurricane language sometimes means give it a minute. This is why old storm remnants matter. A broken storm can still bring flooding. A weakened system can still reorganize. The leftovers can travel far away from where the original threat started. Basically, hurricanes have side quests, and they're annoying. But the zombie storm is not just scary because it comes back. It's scary because it proves a hurricane is not always a clean beginning, middle, end story. It can be born from a wave, grow into a monster, fall apart, come back, change shape, move across oceans, merge with weather systems, and continue causing problems under a different label. At this point, it's less like a storm and more like a franchise reboot, but now we leave the storms that have actually happened. Because level 6 is what happens when the ocean becomes so hot that normal hurricanes are no longer the final form. Level 6, the hypercane. A hypercane is a hypothetical hurricane so extreme that regular hurricanes look like someone sneezed on a map. This is not something we see today. It's a theoretical monster. But scientists have seriously explored it. The basic idea is simple and horrifying. If ocean water became insanely hot, far hotter than normal tropical seas, it could feed a storm beyond ordinary hurricane limits. Not a Category 6, not a Category 7. Those aren't official categories. A hypercane would be its own nightmare. The kind of storm that could punch moisture and energy extremely high into the atmosphere. The kind of storm people have discussed in connection with extreme scenarios like major asteroid impacts or massive geological disasters heating parts of the ocean. So imagine this. An asteroid hits the ocean. The water heats up like Earth just dropped a cosmic chicken nugget into the fryer. The atmosphere above it becomes loaded with energy. A storm forms, but not a normal storm. A supercharged vortex fueled by ocean temperatures that should not be available in the normal game. That's a hypercane. The idea is so intense that some have speculated storms like this could have played a role in global extinction scenarios. Again, hypothetical, we are not casually scheduling one for next Tuesday. But the concept is terrifying because it shows hurricanes are not fixed creatures. They are engines, and if the fuel source becomes ridiculous, the engine can become ridiculous too. Normal hurricanes are limited by real-world ocean temperatures and atmospheric conditions. A hypercane asks, what if the limiter broke? And when the limiter breaks, the storm stops being a weather event. It becomes a planetary crisis. This is where the joke leaves the room. Because if Earth can theoretically create something that extreme under the wrong conditions, what happens on planets where the weather never had Earth's rules to begin with? Level 7, the planet-sized storm. There is a storm on Jupiter bigger than Earth, and it has been raging for longer than anyone watching this video has been alive. That's the Great Red Spot. It is not a hurricane in the Earth sense. There's no warm ocean underneath it. Nobody is boarding up a beach house on Jupiter, but it is a massive rotating storm system, and it makes Earth's hurricanes look like weather app notifications. The Great Red Spot is an anticyclonic storm. It spins in Jupiter's atmosphere, surrounded by jet streams, powered by alien planetary physics, and it has been observed for more than 150 years. Maybe longer, depending on how you connect older observations. Either way, it's ancient by storm standards. A hurricane on Earth might last days or weeks. This thing has been out there spinning since before your great-great-grandparents had opinions. And it's not alone. The giant planets have storms, vortices, bands, jets, hexagons, and atmospheric weirdness that makes Earth weather look like a tutorial level. Saturn has a polar hexagon. Neptune has dark storms that appear and vanish. Jupiter has multiple massive vortices. Once you leave Earth, storms stop needing oceans, they become planet-scale atmospheric creatures, and the terrifying part is that Earth's hurricanes are actually the small version. The training wheels, the local demo. Our storms are powered by warm oceans and shaped by Earth's rotation. But on gas giants, the whole planet is atmosphere. There is no solid ground in the way, no continents to shred the circulation, no landfall to end the party, just deep layers of gas, violent winds, rotating bands, and storms that can survive for generations. So level 7 is not the biggest hurricane. It's worse. It's the realization that hurricanes are just Earth's tiny version of a much larger cosmic behavior. Planets spin, atmospheres move, energy builds, vortices form, and sometimes the result is a storm so big that our entire planet would fit inside the weather report. That's the secret ending. Hurricanes are not just disasters. They are little pieces of planetary machinery. Earth makes them out of ocean heat. Jupiter makes them out of alien atmosphere. And somewhere out there on planets we haven't even seen clearly yet, there may be storms that make the Great Red Spot look polite. Like and subscribe if you want to see more crazy stuff.